Hello friends, welcome back to again Pharmabiomed. This is Dr.Neeraja. In this tutorial, we discuss about the nervous system, the classification of the nervous system and the two important components of the nervous system. One is sympathetic and other one is parasympathetic. Let's move on to our video. So first we see what is the basic classification of the nervous system. So here we can classify the nervous system into peripheral nervous system as well as central nervous system. So central nervous system is made up of brain as well as spinal cord. Coming to the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is outside the brain as well as outside the spinal cord. So it is basically made up of effector neurons as well as effector neurons. One is called as this effector. A stands for effector and E stands for effector neurons. These effector neurons are nothing but sensory neurons. What these sensory neurons will do? They take up the impulses from the stimuli and they passes to the CNS. Those are called sensory neurons. Then coming to the effector neurons. What are effector neurons? They take up the responses from the CNS and they transmit the impulses to the target muscle or target gland. Then those are called motor neurons. So you have effector which stands for sensory, effector which stands for the motor type of nerves. Then coming to the classification of peripheral nervous system. Again the peripheral nervous system is divided into three types. One is autonomous nervous system, somatic nervous system, visceral nervous system. So here visceral nervous system, sometimes it is also taken as a part of the autonomic nervous system. So what is the basic difference between this somatic to the autonomic? So somatic nervous system means it is a voluntary movements. All the voluntary movements are controlled by somatic nervous system. For example, we had a joke and I am laughing, I am smiling. So this is a voluntary action. So this is controlled by your somatic nervous system. Whereas autonomic nervous system, which is involuntary. For example, your heartbeat has to be controlled. Your gastrointestinal reflexes has to be controlled. Those are the involuntary control. That is not in your hands. So those are controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So what happens in the somatic nervous system? The impulses will transmit from the central nervous system to the skeletal muscle, whereas in autonomous nervous system the impulses transmit from the CNS to the all smooth muscles are different types of the glands and tissues. So this is the basic difference between somatic to the autonomous, whereas visceral means visceral is also a part of a type of autonomic nervous system where the impulses travels from the CNS to the various organs that are present in our viscera. For example, heart muscle you can take, liver you can take. So these are visceral nervous systems. Then further, the very important point here that is to be remembered is what are the different types of nerves we have that comes under the peripheral nervous system, which are a part of somatic as well as autonomic nervous system. So here there is a list. So there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves are there and 31 pairs of the spinal nerves are present. So cranial nerves means those are present from the brain. Those are transmitted from the brain, whereas spinal nerves means they are coming out from the spinal cord. So these two plays an important role in the transmission of the nerve impulses as a part of peripheral nervous system, and they play a major role as in the somatic nerve impulses. Somatic nervous system, they play a major role. Then the very next important thing we should understand is what is sympathetic nervous system and what is parasympathetic nervous system. These two are a part of autonomic nervous system. So autonomic nervous system further divided into sympathetic, parasympathetic, and one more is also there, that is enteric nervous system. So in these three we have to differentiate the various actions that are transmitted by the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous systems. Okay, now we see what are the differences between sympathetic to the parasympathetic. So What is sympathetic nervous system? So sympathetic nervous system, here you can see I have just made a list of the differences which I have given here. Sympathetic nervous system, this is responsible for our fight and flight responses. What are the responses that are mediated? Flight and fight. Whereas parasympathetic, these are nothing but the responses which you call them as digest, which is responsible for digest, which is nothing but the rest, that are mediating the rest, and all the body's feed is modulated by this parasympathetic nervous system. So where this particular neurons will be there, from where it is going to be originated in case of sympathetic and parasympathetic means, in sympathetic nervous system the nerves are originated from the lumbar region as well as thoracic region, whereas in the parasympathetic they are getting originated from the brainstem, lateral horn, and here I have written some cranial nerves also, that is 3, 7, 9, 10. So here you can see some of the functionalities of the different actions that are mediated by sympathetic and parasympathetic. I have just diagrammatically presented here. You just go through this. Now we see in parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems how the neurotransmitters are getting released. Here first you observe this is the CNS component. In the CNS component you have brain as well as spinal cord. So from these the impulses has to travel through the neurons of peripheral nervous system. So first we see sympathetic nervous system. So what happens in the sympathetic nervous system? First neuron will be there, then second neuron it will be attached. So there is a formation of the synaptic cleft. So this synapse is also called as ganglion. Ganglion and synapse are both are synonyms. So before the synapse this neuron is there, right? So hence it is called presynaptic neuron. So this presynaptic neuron of the this sympathetic nervous system or preganglionic neuron of the sympathetic nervous system releases the neurotransmitter that is nothing but acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter of sympathetic nervous system in the preganglionic region. Now after the ganglia you have one more neuron. So this neuron is attached to your target cell. So this is called as the postsynaptic neuron or postganglionic neuron. So this postganglionic neuron will releases another neurotransmitter that is noradrenaline. So in the sympathetic nervous system, the postganglionic neurotransmitter is noradrenaline. So here the target cells are any smooth muscle as well as any of the gland where these neurotransmitters are released and they shows their corresponding activity. Now one more point is here, in case of presynaptic neuron there is a release of acetylcholine and it is directly attached to one particular set of glands called as sweat glands. So this is one more point to be remembered in the sympathetic nervous system. Then coming to the parasympathetic. So in the parasympathetic also you have one neuron that is before ganglia and another neuron that is after the ganglia. So here the preganglionic or presynaptic neuron also releases the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, as well as the postganglionic neuron also releases the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. In both the cases acetylcholine will be released. And here again one more exception is parasympathetic preganglionic neurons are supplied to adrenal medulla and there is also release of the acetylcholine directly. And here also what is the target cell? Again all your smooth muscle cells and all your glands are involved in the sympathetic as well as parasympathetic nervous system. So one more type of nervous system, that is enteric nervous system. So enteric nervous system is called as second brain. It is called as second brain. So why it is called second brain means it is going to operate irrespective of sympathetic nervous system as well as parasympathetic nervous system, but under the vicinity of the autonomous autonomous nervous system, but still it carries different types of actions, such as for example all the GIT secretions will be controlled by your enteric nervous system. So this is all about the different types of the nervous systems, peripheral nervous system, the differentiation between sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. So I hope you understood the basic things about the classification of nervous system. If you find it useful, please subscribe, share and pass it to many more. And I have given some important questions also that are scrolling down here. Those are previously asked in your competitive examinations. Follow them. Thank you one and all.